Hi, I'm Porkchop. You might know me by Porkchop FTWIMM on social media. Today I'm going to be talking about my favorite thing, which is audio dramas. Particularly, I'm going to be talking about audio storytelling, which is an introduction to BLCD. First, a quick disclaimer. I'm not an expert in anything related to this, so there may be mistakes or some things I've changed since the last time I checked. I'm also way more familiar with Ultimate CD than BLCD. I have citations, I have a resource page, but if you correct me, I won't get offended. It's not a big deal. I'll just change it. Real quick before we get started, I just wanted to talk about some of the topics I'm going to be going over. First, I'm going to talk a little bit about myself. Then I'm going to talk about the history of drama CDs, why people listen to BLCDs, some of the terminology you need to know, of course, how to get some BLCD, and a few recommendations. And now a little bit about me. I got into drama CDs around the time that I was working on my bachelor's. I fell into that classic YouTube rabbit hole, and this was back when YouTube was still the Wild West with copyright strikes. So things would be under weird names like Two Boys Kissing or X Character Puts You to Sleep. And I fell pretty hard, really hard. So then I started collecting a lot. And this is only 1/5 of my collection. Shout out to my light stick in the background. I have so many more at other places and even digital copies from DL site. What I really like about drama CDs is it's really listener's choice. There is a vast array of scenarios and dynamics and character voices and voice actors. And I feel like once you dive into the indie, Doujin CD scene, you get even more of that. So there's always new options, new things for me to try. And I'm someone who really likes variety. So this kind of feeds into that drive a little bit. Of course, pretty early on, I realized that there was not much of a drama CD community. It pretty much died when Tumblr died. So I was having a hard time finding people just to chat with about drama CDs, which led to me creating my blog Sounds Good to Me with the motto ASMR but make it kinky. And of course, that's why I'm here. That's why I'm talking to you, so that you guys can get excited about drama CDs and BLCD and start listening and the community can grow a little bit. Now I'm going to give you a brief, very, very brief history lesson on drama CDs. These are gonna feel like disconnected timelines or events, but know that they all need to happen for us to get BLCDs in the state that we know them. The first radio drama aired in the 1800s, and the first English drama allegedly aired in the US in 1921. And of course, the first radio drama in Japan happened soon after in 1925. So you have a large gap between the first radio drama and then the first one in English, but then it spreads widely in the 20s. The problem is the popularity of radio dramas was tied very closely to the popularity of radio. So it has this huge peak in the 30s through 60s with the famous The War of Worlds and other serialized radio dramas. At first, radio dramas were based mostly on operas and books and plays, but then once it hits its peak in the US first, but then Europe later, they start doing original serialized dramas. Apparently, the Europeans did not like soap operas in the US, so it takes them a little bit to get into this trend. And then, as we all know, TV killed the radio star. There are two pretty prominent exceptions to this. Of course, Japan, which I'm going to talk more about. And then in the UK with the BBC, even now, they still are pretty well known for their radio dramas then and audio dramas now. So even though it died within the 70s or when TV came on, there's been a renaissance in this kind of format with podfics and podcasts and of course audio dramas. So it's not gone. It's coming back. What you actually care about, of course, though, is the first BL audio drama, which of course is from June. It's always June. They had this serious cassette June, and the first work was Suzumi Gafushi. I'm probably butchering that. And because it was already a popular manga, and the voice actors that did the voice for this cassette were super popular, it took off immediately. As for the reasoning why June decided to do this cassette June, according to the chief editor, it's what you would expect. BL fans are picky. We know that. And because they wanted to appeal to everyone's taste, they decided to take the visual aspect out altogether and just have it voices. This is future past Porkchop. Just to go on a quick tangent, whoever owns this cassette June original cassette, can you please archive the audio online before I have to come to your house, steal it, and archive it myself? Okay, now back to the presentation. Since that initial June cassette series and even till now, BLCD has been growing pretty steadily to the point that I no longer keep up with the releases. You just can't. There's too many things getting released each year. Now I need to give you a quick rundown of these type of mics so you can understand all of what I'm talking about next. So on your right, you have binaural microphones, and then on your left, you have dummy head mics. The binaural microphones you probably have seen in ASMR videos. Maybe they were massaging the ears or whatnot. But on the left, the dummy head mics are what are usually used for situational CDs, and they're basically binaural microphones with a dummy head. Though I have seen a couple with like a full torso. And basically the sound, as you would expect, is it comes in one ear, comes in the other ear, depending on where the speaker is. Which is why I think the dummy head like shape is pretty useful for mimicking whatever they want to record. I do want to add, this is probably the most tame photo I have ever seen of Sato Takuya messing with a dummy head mic. He's always doing something just outlandish with those mics. As far as the history of dummy head mics, binaural microphones have existed since the late 1800s, but the dummy head mics don't become commercially available until the 1970s. So there's like a very long jump before we have the first situational CD in 2007, which is this Counting Sheep series from Honeybee. When I was looking into this, I kept thinking to myself, Hitsuji de Oyasumi sounds very familiar, and I couldn't figure out why. And of course, it's because they did a collab with Hetalia for this exact series. And that Hetalia collab was like one of the first drama CDs I ever listened to, like cover to cover. And is one of the reasons I got into the genre. After this first situational CD, the dummy head mics become the standard like overnight. They're not as common for regular BLCD, but for situational CDs, you'll see it most of the time. Now we're gonna switch gears to talking about ASMR. I want you to think about the first time you heard the acronym ASMR. Probably it wasn't that long ago. Maybe it was a sitcom, maybe it was a talk show. They were probably talking about it in a jokingly fashion, and then the age-old question came up. Is that a sex thing? Now I'm gonna answer that. ASMR, if you're not familiar, stands for Autonomous Sensory Meridian Response. In the late 2000s, a bunch of people started to notice they would get this weird sensation when they would listen to certain sounds. In true millennial fashion, they got together and discussed on Facebook. And then in 2010, Jennifer Allen coins the term ASMR. It said she wanted a sciencey term so that STEM people would take it more seriously. And she emphasizes in every interview that ASMR is not related to sex. Though many argue, and I agree as well, that ASMR and sexuality can't be separated. One, the ear is an erogenous zone, and two, ASMR has a level of intimacy that can't be ignored. I do want to add that although I bring up Jennifer Allen, I do not agree with most of her politics and views and things. I just cannot ignore her role in creating the term ASMR. After throwing all that history at you, you might be wondering, why do people listen to this anyways? Well, I can answer that too. The obvious reason is because of tingles. BLCD is full of triggers, and triggers are any kind of sounds or noises that elicit a physical response. For BLCD specifically, they have whispering, they have crinkling of a certain kind of wrappers, and with the use of the dummy head mic, all those sounds become very close to the ear. Another reason is escapism. For situational CDs specifically, you get super detailed information about the scenario and the characters down to birth dates and blood types, but little to no information about the MC, which allows for listeners to insert. The dummy head mic also creates a realistic atmosphere around the listener. On the opposite end of the spectrum, it allows, just like every other type of BL, it allows the listener to imagine a world where they are not dealing with the current issues that face queer people. The most popular reason is the voice acting. It's one way to keep up with your favorite voice actor. It brings what would usually be a static character to life, and this is especially true for if you're listening to BLCD that's based on a manga, because there's a huge difference between reading ... and hearing a perfectly timed pause. It conveys a completely different type of emotion. There's also a phenomenon where personality types are assigned to voice actors, and it happens regardless of their actual personality or gender. And I have a couple of different voice types at the bottom, along with how I assign voice types to some of these voice actors. Probably one you're not expecting is gender. So when it comes to gender, you may be thinking, why does gender even matter when we're talking about BLCDs? Well, it depends who you ask. Some have argued that heterosituational CDs reinforce gender roles, while BLCDs allow mostly female, but all listeners to explore other dynamics. While others have seen with the situational ASMR scene that men have begun to subvert gender roles by taking on caretaker roles. On the screen, you could see two examples of actual gender swapping using voices. These are drama CDs from Ultimate Games where the all-male cast is voiced by women. Because it's an Ultimate game, it's like a reverse harem type of drama CD. But because the MC is female, it becomes queer without actually becoming queer. And I would be doing you a great disservice if I didn't talk about Murase Ayumu, who's famous for blurring gender lines with his voice. I highly recommend you look up his interviews. It comes up like every interview and someone is always like begging him to do a hyper feminine or a hyper masculine voice. This one, another good reason. Drama CDs tend to be spicy without looking so spicy. And you can kind of see an example of this with my latest BLCD in the corner. The covers are a little saucy, you know, they're a little spicy, but if you know about 10 count, you know that cover doesn't tell you at all what's about to go down in 10 count. BLCD are often separated from traditional pornographic material, found by manga and figures and standees, but won't be found near adult videos. And of course, headphones, they won't tell on you, but a video will. And then there's this separation between voice actors and the characters they voice, so it's easier to separate from the real world. Now on to some basic info and terms. So you may be asking, what's the difference between audio drama and drama CD? Because I know I've been using those terms a lot. Nothing. And I'm being so serious, it's really nothing. They're used interchangeably pretty often. For me personally, I might use audio drama if I'm talking about an audio that is streaming only, it doesn't have no physical version. Where drama CD, usually I use that term just to separate whatever else I'm talking about. Like it's a drama CD versus a BLCD, a drama CD versus a situational CD. It's just a different other type of CD. Those are the only times where I will use those terms to mean something other than the umbrella meaning that they already have. As for the difference between official CDs and Doujin CDs, you probably already know this. It's the same for, official BL versus a doujinshi. The official is from a publisher, distributor, some kind of company, right? And it usually has a physical version. It's often used as a promotional material, so you'll have BLCD that are based on manga, or if you get like a limited edition BL visual novel, maybe a drama CD will come with it. I also found that for official CDs, voice actors are more likely to use their real names as opposed to their alias, where for Doujin CDs, these come from an indie group. Some of them are pretty big to still be considered an indie group, but they are. Sometimes these are called circles. Physical CDs are super rare. I have a couple Doujin CD that are physical, but like honestly, it's one physical comes out like maybe 3 or 4 months. And for Doujin CD, they're way more likely to use an alias than their real name. And just a quick etiquette thing, whenever you're talking about a voice actor's name, you should use their alias if they use their alias and use their real name if they use their real name. So try not to use those names interchangeably. As for drama CDs, again, this is me using drama CD as just the other not situational CD. Drama CDs, you're a voyeur. You're not part of the story. The story is just playing out and you're listening to it. You're never acknowledged or mentioned. And there's way less use of the dummy head mic, and it's way more common for BLCD. Whereas situational CDs, this uses a listener insert format, and it could be all kinds of dynamics, but just like anything else that has this self-insert format, there are a lot of people that don't consider the listener themselves and consider the listener like a separate character, and that's completely fine. No one is stopping you from doing that. There's also the heavy use of the dummy head mic, so if you don't like that sound, probably not looking for situational CD. And it's usually not based off of any existing BL, probably just because it's more difficult to turn like a manga into a situational CD. And then there are tokens, which these are extras that you would get with the CD. They're usually exclusive to pre-orders and extremely hard to find after, but I have found for Doujin audios, they will release them based on like interactions with their Twitter accounts or however many downloads and character birthdays, all kinds of little events. These are considered like collector's items. I have a lot of them. I'm paid a lot of money to get my hand on CDs that still have token. And as far as what token can be, it's pretty much anything. I have an example of some exclusive art I got with one of my latest BLCD. I have it turned over so you can't actually see the art. You're just looking at the backside. If you want to see the art, you need to go buy it because I spent a lot of money to get it. And then for Western audios, they have their own set of terminology that is mostly ridiculous acronyms. I don't know what half of this means. Don't ask me. But if you want to get into listening to Western audio dramas, you are going to have to learn their terminology, which is mostly acronyms. And you may be thinking to yourself, I'm ready. This presentation might have gotten you excited to go ahead and buy your first BLCD, but I need you to slow down. So now, Savannah, you are probably considering going to your local comic shop, your Barnes and Nobles, maybe even a convention. You probably are not going to find BLCD at any of those places. Instead, I'm going to tell you other places that you can buy BLCD. These are your options if you don't know a lick of Japanese. You got Rotten Blossom, who might be here, Yigi Bean, who I definitely know is a sponsor, and then DL Site, which I highly recommend if you don't know any Japanese because they offer official and fan translations. I have found that recently they started to region lock some content, so you might need to use a VPN to find everything. Animate US and Animate International are great, but I will say you need to quadruple check the order status of whatever you want to buy, whether it's on pre-order, back order, or whatever. Also check whether that CD is considered limited edition or not, because that will tell you if the Tokutin will come with it. I've got more than a couple times by Animate because of that little differences. And then there, of course, are a bunch of secondhand options. You're probably already familiar with all of these places because if you buy merch, you already use them. These are options if you know some Japanese or are comfortable using like Google Translate. Stellaworth is my go-to. I love Stellaworth. Animate Japan is great. They had an issue with phone verification. I don't know if that has been fixed. I've been locked out of my account for like 3 years. So, if you can verify your phone number, you'll be fine. It's a great website. You'll be able to get a lot. Polkadora is a streaming website. They do rate limit, but they have a partnership with Animate. So if you want the Animate Tokutin like CDs and audios, you can get them all through Polkadora. Fifth Avenue does mostly BLCD, so if you want your BLCD, that's a great one. You can buy directly from the label A Circle. If you follow like some indie voice actors, they might put their audios directly onto Booth. DL Site a little bit, just because some things don't get translated as well as others. And then the thing about using any of these places, you're probably gonna need a proxy. I use Black Ship. Tenso is great. Bai is great. Those all work. And then these are some honorable mentions. These are places I either don't know very well or haven't bought anything from them, so I didn't want to recommend them straight up. Quinn Audio, I do have a subscription. The quality varies quite a bit. It's mostly English. They have some celebrity audios, like Jesse Williams did one. So if you want to hear a celebrity's voice, there's Quinn Audio. Voice Festa is from like Comic Festa, Anime Festa, that group. When I checked it, that was when they were first advertising and they had like 2 BL options. That could have changed. I doubt it, considering what they usually sell. Stella Play feels like Stellaworth's answer to Polkadora partnering with Animate. It's the same thing, like it's a streaming service, but they have all of Stellaworth's Tokutin audios. And recently they started having some exclusive audios to Stella Play. Again, I haven't bought anything from them. I'm not sure what the quality is gonna be like with the audio, so we'll see. And then if all else fails and you just want an audio right now, you just want a taste, there you can go on YouTube and look up Boyfriend ASMR, and I promise you'll find something you like probably out there. Yes, tariffs. I took some time to look pretty deeply into the tariffs for the States. Honestly, this shouldn't affect you with buying BLCD. Unless you're buying secondhand from someone that lives in China or you're spending over $800. Don't spend $800. There's literally no reason to ever spend $800 on drama CDs. Don't do that. If you don't do that, you'll be fine. You're probably starting to feel pretty overwhelmed by the amount of options available to you, and you may still be wondering, how do I decide on my first BLCD? Well, I have a couple questions to help you out. The first and probably most obvious is, how well do you actually know Japanese? Are you going to be needing some kind of translation? As I mentioned before, DLSite offers translations, but they distribute them in two different type of ways. You'll either get a translated script as a PDF, or you'll have to watch a subtitle video through their app. Personally, I prefer the PDF just because I like to read it and then go about my day. And then of course, the next question is, do you want something safe for work or not safe for work? I know I talked a lot about not safe for work options, but no, there are plenty of safe for work options. If you don't want to mess with erotic audio, you really do not have to. Nobody is forcing you. The next question is, what type of audio are you looking for? Do you want something that is an official CD, or are you looking to support the indie scene? Do you want something physical, or are you okay with digital only copies? Do you want a situational CD where you become a character in the story, or do you prefer to just be a voyeur? The easiest way to decide on your next BLCD is think about, who is your favorite voice actor? What do you like about their voice? Is it a certain voice type that you associate with them that you really like? And of course, with voice actors, you're probably going to need to look up their alias, because you never know if they're going to use their real name or their alias. The next question is, what are your squicks? What are the scenarios, tropes, tags that you want to avoid at all costs? And then my most important rule, my number one rule, don't be fooled by pretty cover art. And I know what you may be thinking, oh, Porkchop, but all the cover art is so pretty. All the artists are so talented. Da, 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 da. Stop. There's currently a trend going around where you'll see like some pretty covers. It'll be a nice looking guy on the cover, maybe some bubble letters, maybe it's pastel. And the actual scenario is very dark. It's usually like a yandere scenario. In order to combat that, you're gonna need to pay attention to what the tags are, who the voice actor is, and of course, listen to the sample. It's usually never hidden. It's always some comment in there about like, oh, you get chased around, or you notice he has photos, maybe too many photos. It's always gonna be some kind of hint there that it's gonna get darker than the cover suggests. So just make sure you're paying attention. Don't just buy things because of a pretty cover art. If you like the cover art so much, find the artist. They're usually on Twitter. You can go follow them and see all the pretty art they make. If my questions weren't enough, I do have a couple recommendations. First off is Futago to Sensei. That's my most recent BLCD. It is from a manga of the same name. It had a recent release, so you might still be able to find the Tokten. If you remember those little exclusive art, that was part of it, and along with this talk CD, that was also Tokten. It does have some triggers. There's twin seme, which some might not like, and of course, it's a teacher-student relationship, so there's some pretty extreme age gap between the characters. I enjoyed it. It was a nice little listen while I was working on homework or whatnot. I really enjoy the dynamic between these characters, and I just generally like 3P, so that was fun for me. The next one is the 10 Count series. It's a pretty popular series within the BL community. There's several volumes of this drama CD. I'm trying to collect them all, so if you have someone or know someone who's selling the other ones, let me know. I got these two resale from Yiggy Bean, so shout out to Yiggy Bean. It has some great voice actors in it that fit the characters really well. Rip to the 10 Count anime, it would have been great. It is of course based on the manga. It's an older one, so you'll probably be able to find it secondhand, and you'll be able to find some fan translations like around. If you know about 10 count, you know it has an extensive list of triggers. So if you haven't read the 10 count manga, I would probably not recommend this actually. You should know what you're getting into before you start listening to this one. Next is the new Carnival drama CD. There are two because it covers all of the older characters. New Carnival has a bunch of really popular voice actors. Most people have played the New Carnival game at least once, so probably you're familiar with the storyline. There are multiple scenarios because you get a track per character along with like a epilogue and prologue. It has similar triggers as the game, so probably if you played the game, you already are familiar with what triggering content might be there. And because there are newer characters in New Carnival, there's potential for more audios in the future. I will say that this is not translated, so there's that. The Obey Me ASMR series, however, is translated, and it's also available on DL site. This is more of a situational CD slash ASMR CD. It is completely safe for work. And the Obey Me series, from what I understand, does not use any kind of gender pronouns to refer to the player. And from what I've heard in the sample, that's true as well for this ASMR series. Obey Me has a great cast of voice actors. And just like with New Carnival, there are other characters. They only have 2 audios right now, but there are a bunch of characters, so there's potential for more audios. I will say when I was listening to this one, because I don't own either New Carnival or the Obey Me series, when I was listening to the sample, some of the pauses were kind of long, and it was giving Dora the Explorer, but I think if this is your first like situational CD, you won't even notice the difference. This I do own. This is another situational CD, but this is a hetero one. It is also available on DL site. This is a Doujin audio, so if you're looking for something from an indie creator, this is a great option. This one is an example of playing with gender roles. That's why I recommended it, even though it's technically not BLCD. You have a male character that is taking on this caretaker role of cooking and cleaning for whoever is the listener. I will say the audio quality is kind of hand wavy. From what I remember, they're using a mix of binaural microphone and another type, so it can be choppy in some places. But overall, the storyline is very cute, and this is another example of a healing type of voice. Very calming, relaxing. I'll listen to this when I'm like getting ready for bed or something. It's a fun little storyline. Here are all my citations, all my little credits for the little PNG tuber I'm about to use. And then here are the resources that I highly recommend you look into. This Radio Drama Theory and Practice was a book that came up quite a bit when I was researching this. I've never read that book. I only read the parts that were referenced before I decide to cite the book. I don't know who Tim Cook is or if they're a good person or not. That's on you. I do know that it's found in the Internet Archive. The radio drama Wikipedia was super helpful. ASMR University is where I found the interview with Jennifer Allen. Hibiki Audio is great. Josemuke Wiki or the BLCD Wiki, one of those two has the list of names with their associated alias. It's in Japanese, but figure it out. BLCD.online has been recommended to me in the past. I think it's still outdated, but it can be helpful if you need something in English. And then, of course, I have Cry's list of names and alias. That has been updated because it looked very different from the last time I checked it. This is a link to my card with all my little social media for all my little fan dealings. As I said before, you can find me at Porkchop FTWIMM on pretty much all social media. And then I have my blog, Sounds Good to Me. So if you want to hear more about the audio dramas that I listen to, definitely check that out. Thank you all for listening. Thank you, CitrusCon, for having me. This is my first ever convention, and I was really excited. I didn't know what this was gonna be like, but I'm so happy I did it. I'm so glad that you guys actually came to see this. Thank you.